Hello. How you doing? Don't leave. You don't even know what you're watching. You just missed out on one of the greatest shows on YouTube.
News is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel's deadly attacks throughout the Gaza Strip are intensifying, with thousands more Palestinians in northern Gaza now cut off from food and water, as Israel says its troops are fighting in Jabalia's city center. Israel's attacks on Rafah are also ongoing after more than 500,000 people taking refuge in the southern city were forced to flee. The U.S. said its first aid shipments have started via its temporary Gaza pier after several weeks of construction. But the UN reiterated that all humanitarian access points to Gaza need to be opened up.
To stave off the horrors of famine, we must use the fastest and most obvious route to reach the people of Gaza, and for that, we need access by land.
That was the UN Secretary General's deputy spokesperson, Farhan Haq. Many Gazans have rejected the U.S. pier. These are displaced Palestinians in Nuseirat.
We don't want ships. We want the border crossing to open for people to come and go. We want safety. We want official borders. Those planes as well that they bring here with the parachutes and they throw food at us like dogs, like beggars. That does not work. It falls on houses. It falls on people. It brings us problems.
We reject dealing with the ships and the American ships because in the same way it gives us, it will take away from us. Maybe they want to take over the gas fields that are in the sea, or maybe they are here to displace the Palestinian people and to transfer people from one country to another.
Spain has denied port access to an Israeli-bound ship from India carrying explosives. Spain says it will no longer allow ships with weapons for Israel to use its ports. Spain has also vowed to recognize Palestinian statehood by July. Foreign ministers from 13 countries signed onto a letter warning Israel to halt its ground operations in Rafah and to get more aid to Palestinians.
Amy Goodman.
The letter was signed by all G7
Now.
members, minus the United States. Germany, France, the UK, Italy, Japan, and Canada, as well as the foreign ministers of Australia, Denmark, the Netherlands, New Zealand, South Korea, and Sweden. In The Hague, the International Court of Justice has ordered representatives for Israel to submit more information about humanitarian conditions in its so-called evacuation zones in Gaza by tomorrow. The request came as the ICJ closed its second day of hearings on South Africa's request for emergency measures to halt Israel's assault on Rafah. Israel denied its carrying out a genocide in Gaza as it addressed the court today. Briefings were halted for a moment when a protester yelled "liars"
Africa
as the Israeli delegation
been speaking
spoke.
against Israel
Yesterday,
ever
South
since
Africa
Israel
presented
been doing
its
this.
case.
Israel's genocide has continued apace and has just reached a new and horrific stage. Israel has sought to hide its crimes through the weaponization of international humanitarian law. It pretends that the civilians it ruthlessly kills through its 2,000-pound bombs, through its targeted airstrikes, through its artificial intelligence systems, through its executions, are human shields.
We'll have more on the World Court hearings later in the broadcast. Police continued their violent crackdown on student Gaza solidarity protests this week, with arrests and raids Thursday at University of California, Berkeley, as well as DePaul University in Chicago. This is DePaul student body president, Parveen Mundy.
It's really important to us that, for the people of Palestine, knowing that, I'm a student body president and I go to a university, and at the same time, there are no universities left in Gaza. We're all responsible for making sure that our tuition dollars aren't going towards genocide.
Faculty at Morehouse College, a historically black college in Atlanta, Georgia, voted 50-38 in favor of conferring an honorary doctorate to President Biden when he delivers a commencement speech on Sunday. Biden's visit to Morehouse has been met with protests from students over his response to what's happening in Gaza. In New York State, students at Bard College have just taken over the school's administration building. Meanwhile, Columbia students and faculty on Thursday celebrated an alternative people's graduation at the nearby Cathedral of St. John the Divine. We'll have more from that ceremony later in the broadcast. This comes as the Washington Post reports a group of billionaires and business interests privately pressured New York City Mayor Eric Adams to deploy police on pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University. A WhatsApp group with some of the country's wealthiest people detailed donations to Adams' campaign and conversations with the mayor. Some of those involved include real estate magnate Barry Sternlicht, Daniel Lubetsky, founder of the Kind Snacks brand, hedge fund manager Daniel Loeb, and founder of Thor Equities, Joseph Sitt. The U.S. Supreme Court rejected a challenge to the Consumer Financial Protection
They got that on our local news.
mechanism that could have undermined the agency charged with protecting borrowers from predatory loans and other abuses by banks and financial entities. Former Labor Secretary Robert Reich praised the justices for protecting the CFPB from, quote, attacks by shady payday lenders, adding since 2011, the CFPB has put $17.5 billion back in the pockets of 200 million Americans who have been defrauded, unquote. In other Supreme Court news, the New York Times is reporting an upside-down U.S. flag, which is a symbol used by Trump supporters and election deniers, hung outside the home of Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito in January 2021, just days before Biden's inauguration. The revelations are expected to reignite calls for Justice Alito to recuse himself from cases related to the January 6th insurrection, including Trump's attempt to claim immunity from election subversion charges. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has pardoned Daniel Perry, the U.S. Army sergeant who was convicted and sentenced to 25 years for murdering Black Lives Matter protester Garrett Foster in 2020. Ahead of the murder, Perry posted on social media he planned to shoot, quote, looters, and posted dozens of racist and Islamophobic messages and images. While people with felonies are not permitted to own firearms in Texas, Governor Abbott's pardon means Perry will be legally allowed to carry and possess a gun. In other news from Texas, at least 4 people are dead, nearly 1 million are without power after heavy rains and powerful storms battered the Houston area Thursday night, causing massive floods and destruction. The Biden administration is moving to end all new coal leasing in the Powder River Basin of Wyoming and Montana, the largest coal-producing region in the United States. The move comes in response to a lawsuit by environmental groups. Meanwhile, in Florida, Republican Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a bill that removes all references to climate change in state law and weakens regulations on pipelines, among other measures. The move eliminates climate change as a priority in Florida's energy policy decisions, despite Florida being on the front lines of the climate crisis as it faces worsening hurricanes, rising sea levels, extreme heat, and toxic algae blooms. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, families gathered Wednesday to bury nearly 24 children who were killed earlier this month after rocket attacks on camps for displaced people near the city of Goma. Another 13 victims, mostly women, were also buried. Mourners blame the M23 armed group for the killings and condemn the neighboring Rwanda for backing the group. This is Congolese Human Rights Minister Albert Fabrice Puela.
A Congolese genocide for economic reasons is being perpetrated in our country by Rwanda. War crimes, such as those of May 3rd in Mugunga, crimes against humanity, have all been documented.
Rwanda has denied the accusations, saying the attacks were likely carried out by militias backed by the Congolese army. Intensifying violence in the eastern DRC has forced hundreds of thousands to flee as armed groups vie for control of the country's natural resources.
There are a lot of foreign countries behind Rwanda President Paul Kagame, and they're killing my people because of the minerals that the Congo has. If they want to work with the Congo, they shouldn't go through Kagame. Let them come and negotiate with us, and we'll know how to make the ore available to them so that we can all benefit from it.
In other news about Rwanda, Human Rights Watch said Rwandan immigration authorities denied entry to one of its researchers this week. Human Rights Watch said the move, quote, exposes the government's deep-seated hostility to human rights monitoring and independent scrutiny of any kind, unquote. Back in the U.S., immigrant rights groups continue to demand the Biden administration immediately halt deportations to Haiti and enact protections for Haitian migrants as the island nation faces a worsening humanitarian crisis, deepening gang violence and political instability. Advocates said Thursday another group of Haitian asylum seekers have been deported, the second deportation flight since April. The Haitian Bridge Alliance said the, quote, deeply troubling policy places vulnerable individuals in grave danger, unquote. And the Biden administration took a major step towards reclassifying marijuana from Schedule I drug to Schedule III. The move will not decriminalize marijuana, but acknowledges its medical benefits and differentiates it from lethal drugs like heroin or meth. The move would also ease tax burdens on states that have legalized marijuana sales. Biden hailed the monumental step Thursday.
No one should be in jail merely for using or possessing marijuana, period. Far too many lives have been upended because of failed approach to marijuana, and I'm committed to righting those wrongs.
As a senator, Joe Biden authored the 1986 Anti-Drug Abuse Act, enacting new mandatory minimum sentences for drugs including marijuana. The law led to a 5-fold increase in the jailing of black people. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. Democracy Now! Is funded by viewers like you. Please give today at democracynow.org/give.
Did you say burger? Guac? Cheese? Santa Fe burger sauce? Burger. Jalapeno pepper. Cheese? Burger. Burger. Spicy cheese burger. Big burger! Big burger.
Good morning and welcome to your Friday. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Pryor right now on Morning News Now. States of emergency. Those severe storms battering the South turning deadly this morning. Officials say torrential downpours and dangerous flooding now responsible for at least 4 deaths in Texas. And nearly 1 million people there are waking up without power. Our Michelle Grossman has the latest track as all that wild weather moves east. Also this morning, fireworks and searing accusations on day 3 of Michael Cohen's testimony in former President Trump's hush money trial. The fiery back and forth between Cohen and Mr. Trump's legal team as this historic case enters the final stretch. Plus, it was a green letter day on Wall Street, the Dow touching 40,000 for the first time ever during yesterday's session. But what does that mean for Main Street? We are watching your wallet in just a moment. And from Bridgerton to Billie Eilish, we're going to end this work week with your rundown of the latest and greatest in the world of entertainment. It is your can't miss list. Excited for all the content that you can watch if it's raining this weekend, which it is for so many folks.
So true. There you go. Stay in, watch these things.
Yeah, we are going to begin this hour with the deadly weather that's delivering another devastating blow to the already soaked South.
At least 4 people are dead and millions more are dealing with the cleanup in Texas and Louisiana after yet another round of torrential downpours and dangerous flooding. Houston is one of the hardest hit areas. The storm slamming the city with hurricane force wind down trees and power lines. And that's where NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson is for us this morning. Priscilla, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. It was a scary night for folks across southeast Texas as those severe thunderstorms rolled in. We're in downtown Houston, parts of which look like a disaster zone this morning. Take a look at this building behind me. As you can see, the entire side facade has crumbled. This is just some of the damage that people are waking up to.
Parts of Texas and Louisiana underwater this morning after an intense night of storms left communities drenched and claimed the lives of at least 4 people in the Houston area. In East Texas, the Navasota River reached major flood stage, spilling into surrounding areas. High winds toppling trees and damaging downtown skyscrapers while knocking out power to more than 800,000 homes in Houston. The rain even coming through the roof during an Astros game at Minute Maid Park.
Watch out for debris.
More than 20 million people were impacted by the wet weather overnight. And with the soil saturated and rivers bursting in many areas after weeks of relentless downpours, the latest rain has nowhere to go. Here we go. Forcing some, like Angie Yarbrough, to pack up the only home she's ever known.
I cried about it. It's heartbreaking. It's like 48 years I've been down here. And I can't fight it anymore. I can't do it.
The threat prompting a rare, high-risk excessive rainfall warning from the National Weather Service.
It was quick, but it had some heavy downpours.
From East Texas to western Louisiana, Houston Mayor John Whitmire sending out this urgent plea.
Stay at home tonight, stay at home tomorrow, so we have an opportunity to go into a full recovery mode.
Residents in hard-hit communities now wondering what comes next.
What did the next couple months look like in terms of trying to get back on track?
We don't know.
And unfortunately, the bad weather isn't over just yet. As this storm moves east, there are millions who are at risk in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, with part of the Gulf Coast potentially seeing up to a foot of rain by Saturday. Joe, Savannah.
All right, Priscilla, thank you so much.
Let's pick it up right there with everything else you need to know about this weekend's weather.
Meteorologist Michelle Grossman is back with us now. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Hey there, guys, and we're going to continue to see that rain falling, water pouring from the sky, tropical downpours in the south. So the south continues to be soaked, but that's not the only spot. We're going to see rain all the way into the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley, parts of the Northeast today. So lots of people needing the umbrellas today. Again, the focus will be along the Gulf Coast states. We're going to add on a severe weather threat there as well. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But not everyone is getting the rain. We have sunny and warm conditions, thankfully, in the Central Plains, parts of the Southern Plains, back to the Southwest. Look how warm it is in the Southwest. Some spots in Arizona near 100 degrees. And then to the Northwest, we're looking at some rain, and we're also looking at the chance for some higher elevation snow. Record highs in the Southeast as well. We're looking at temperatures into the 80s and 90s. Then as we near Saturday, we're still looking at strong storms. That's mainly throughout the Southeast, the Carolinas. Heavy rain once again. So the flood threat does continue on Saturday. Notice that rain into the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, parts of New England as well. This is to kick off your weekend. Behind this system, we have Midwest warmth. It's going to be warm throughout the Central and Southern Plains. Temperatures into the 90s. Keep that in mind, though. Lots of people without power in Texas, Louisiana. We're going to add in that heat tomorrow. That's going to be tough for many without air conditioning. And ample sunshine throughout the Southwest. Still really warm on Sunday throughout the Southern Plains, so hopefully we can get the power restored there. Also looking at the chance for some rain in parts of the Northern Plains and into the Midwest. Rain and snow in the Intermountain West. Very hot once again in the Southwest. Temperatures nearing 100 degrees in many many spots. We're looking at dry northeast. That's good news, but the rain's still falling in parts of the southern parts of the mid-Atlantic into the Carolinas and also the southeast. So the Preakness, that's in Baltimore tomorrow. Unfortunately, we are looking at a wet forecast, a cool forecast as well. Occasional showers. That's going to make for a tricky track, and we're looking at temperatures only in the low 60s, well below normal for this time of year, and that's right around 4:30 tomorrow. Also do want to note that the PGA Championship we were just talking about, we do have some showers and thunderstorms in the forecast for today. So let's talk about those flood alerts because we're looking along the central Gulf states from eastern Texas into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. 8 million people impacted. We have a flood watch that is in the green and flash flood warning. We're using that maroon box. That means flooding is happening now or it's imminent. So we're going to be watching that very, very closely. This is life-threatening. We're watching the streams, the creeks, the rivers, and this is why heavy rain is falling. It's been falling for hours. This is a slow-moving system, and we're seeing rounds of really heavy rain. We're looking at that lightning, hearing the thunder in portions of the lower Mississippi Valley, the Gulf Coast, and that rain extends all the way to the Ohio Valley, but we're seeing pockets of heavy rain even there and throughout the Tennessee Valley. Because of that, we do have a flash flood risk. In addition to that flood alert, we're looking at rainfall rates of 2 inches per hour. Priscilla kind of touched upon this. We're looking at rainfall rates up to 8 inches in some spots. That's locally higher amounts. We could see 2 to 5 generally, but still could see 8 inches of rain in spots. We're looking at moderate risk from Hattiesburg into Montgomery and also just north of Mobile. Again, lots of rain across the area, especially along the portions of southern Mississippi into Alabama. We're looking at locally 5 inches, but could see locally higher amounts. And we're looking at rain all the way into the northeast. Let's talk about that severe weather threat because we saw that yesterday with those straight line winds in Houston, all the damage that was done there. 7 million people at risk for damaging hail, winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. That could bring down more trees, more power lines, and that could create more power outages, and also huge tornadoes are possible. And then, guys, tomorrow we're going to see that risk into the southeast, also the Carolinas, where 9 million people will be under the risk for severe weather on Saturday. Back to you.
All right, Michelle, thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's turn now to the hush money trial of former President Donald Trump. The prosecution's star witness, Michael Cohen, faced a scathing second day of cross-examination. Mr. Trump's defense team tried to paint him, as a serial liar in a case that appears to be nearing its conclusion. NBC News senior legal correspondent Lauren Jarrett has the story.
Good morning to you. Michael Cohen has been nearly unflappable on the witness stand as the defense tries to show this jury that he has changed his story about things big and small. The word lie used more than 50 times in court just yesterday. The jury may not remember every single defense attack line, but they only need one person not to buy his story.
This morning, Donald Trump's hush money cover-up trial inching towards a final conclusion after a bruising cross-examination of his former fixer, Michael Cohen. The defense team trying to portray the state's key witness as a serial liar, someone who's misled Congress, prosecutors, a federal judge, and now this jury. Trump attorney Todd Blanche digging into a piece of Cohen's testimony from earlier this week, where he said he informed Mr. Trump by phone in October 2016 that his payoff of Stormy Daniels would soon be handled. Cohen originally told the jury he called Mr. Trump's bodyguard, Keith Schiller, who passed the phone to the former president. Blanche raising his voice Thursday saying, "That was a lie." The jury then shown never-before-seen text messages suggesting a completely different explanation for the October call, that Schiller was helping Cohen cope with a teenage prankster at the same time. Blanche returning to a log showing the call in question lasted less than 2 minutes. Cohen appearing caught off guard, saying, "I believe I also spoke to President Trump and told him everything regarding the Stormy Daniels matter." Blanche shooting back, "We are not asking what you believe. This jury does not want to hear what you think happened." Cohen then later saying, "I don't recall telephone calls on a specific date going back to 2016.
The day you get your Clear Choice dental implants makes every day a let's dig in day, a take a big bite day, a love my new teeth day. Because a Clear Choice day changes every day. Schedule a free consultation. A sad wizardry only appears in fairy tales. But when you read some mystical-looking words in a certain order, miracles start to happen. Homes come alive. Cars move on their own. Isn't it real?
I don't think so.
Come on, what about food that comes by itself? You mean
owned by a huge team of developers. Until the game, it is pure.
Or maybe it's just handful of millions of developers empowered by the right tools.
JetBrains IDEs. Make it happen with code.
As he is the one who paid Stormy Daniels $130,000 on the eve of the 2016 election, and the only witness who has testified the former president directed Cohen to do it to protect the campaign, which Mr. Trump denies. Cohen's motive for lying about that now, according to the defense, payback. His own words on podcast episodes played for the jury.
Revenge is the dish best served cold. And you better believe I want this man to go down and rot inside for what he did to me and my family.
Now, these lawyers are not done with Cohen yet. He will be back on the stand Monday for more cross-examination, and then the prosecution will get their chance to redirect and clear up anything he said. Back to you.
All right, Laura, thank you.
Let's talk more about this with NBC News legal analyst Catherine Christian. Catherine, good to have you with us. So let's start with that heated exchange surrounding the October 26 phone call, which Laura just laid out. In your mind, how significant was that moment? This accusation that Cohen was lying about the call, what it was actually about, could that put some doubt in the mind of at least one juror?
It could. It was significant at the moment. I say at the moment because the prosecution will get an opportunity as soon as the cross-examination is over to redirect, and the purpose of redirect is to rehabilitate. I don't know what happened here because this has been a very long-term investigation, and the prosecutors could have easily also have found those text messages and look at the timestamps and say, how could he have been on the phone with Trump discussing Stormy Daniels and also at the same time texting about this 14-year-old who was stalking him. So that will be an issue I'm sure the prosecutors were discussing as soon as the words came out of Todd Blanche's mouth about this lie, because they probably were scratching their heads saying what went wrong here.
So, Catherine, we know Cohen is back for further cross-examination on Monday, and then after that, it's up to the defense to decide whether to call any witnesses. Mr. Trump's attorney mentioned they may call an expert witness, but that's still up in the air. But what do you think? Do you think the defense needs to call any witnesses to come up their case?
No, and the expert witness they were going to call was an expert on federal election campaign law, and the judge said that witness cannot discuss the law. The only thing that witness can discuss is the Federal Election Campaign Commission generally. So if that's all the witness can discuss, what's the point of calling that witness? So that's why the defense was very non-committal about whether or not they were going to call that witness. And as to the defendant, most defendants do not testify, and I do not believe that this defendant is going to testify in this case.
So, Catherine, in the event that the defense decides not to call any witnesses, the judge has told both sides, prepare for closing arguments as early as Tuesday. First, are you surprised this is moving so quickly, and then how do you think both sides are going to prepare and approach the closing?
I'm not surprised because this particular judge, Judge Michon, moves things quickly. Judges really control the movement of how a trial goes, how their calendar goes. And he starts right on time at 9:30. He works a full day. So the prosecutors make sure they have all of their witnesses available. So if the defense does not call any witnesses, then yes, closing arguments could start on Tuesday.
All right.
And end on Tuesday.
Exactly. There you go. And then we get to the jury. Catherine Christian, thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, the Biden administration is using executive privilege to block the release of audio recordings of the president's interview regarding classified documents with special counsel Robert Hur. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander joins us from outside the White House with the latest. Peter, good morning.
Savannah, good morning to you. So there was a hearing on this very issue late yesterday, happened on the House Oversight Committee, and this thing got ugly quick, petty and personal. So what was it all about? The written transcript of President Biden's interview with special counsel has been out since March, a couple of months ago. So we already know what the president said to special counsel Robert Hur. What we do not know is how the president said it. And for their part, House Republicans have been pushing to get those audio recordings, arguing that the White House is trying to protect the president politically.
I'd like to know.
Chaos on Capitol Hill overnight. Order. A hearing about the Justice Department's handling of President Biden's special counsel interview devolving into personal attacks and shouting.
You're not. Yeah, you're not. You don't have enough intelligence.
Chair recognizes Mr. Perry. Okay, move to strike through ladies' words again. The opening insult coming from far-right Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene, attacking Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold
on.
Order.
Mr. Chairman, order of your committee.
Order. Democrat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez coming to Crockett's defense.
That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Are your feelings
Her
hurt?
words down.
Aw.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play.
Crockett eventually hitting back.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling, if someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built bush body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
What now? The contentious hearing was originally called as part of the GOP's push to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress after the Justice Department withheld audio recordings of President Biden's interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur. And earlier yesterday, President Biden asserted executive privilege to deny House Republicans the recordings. Garland had recommended that, warning the recordings release would damage future law enforcement efforts. The special counsel who interviewed the president as part of an investigation into classified documents discovered at Mr. Biden's Delaware home and at an office space found the president did nothing legally wrong, but in his report referred to the president as a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. The White House counsel, in a letter to House Republicans, saying they only want the recordings released to, quote, chop them up, distort them, and use them for partisan political purposes. Quite a scene there. House Speaker Mike Johnson accused the White House of being afraid for Americans to hear the president on those recordings. By the way, we should note that news organizations, including NBC, are part of a lawsuit seeking the release of this audio under the Freedom of Information Act. Savannah and Joe.
All right, Peter, thank you so much.
Wall Street is celebrating after the Dow hit a new milestone.
Yeah, the Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped above 40,000 for the first time before closing the day down 38 points. Still, some people are taking it as a good sign that the market could be making a bullish turnaround.
NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans joins us now. So 40,000, it's just a number, but it's a nice round number that we like. What's the significance of this and how our investors react?
Well, in 2017, the Dow hit 20,000, and just 8 years later, it's doubled. So what that means, revenge of the buy and hold investor, right? If you have just been buying continually stocks and holding on to them, you have ridden through a pandemic, you have ridden through a couple of really bad years, you've ridden through all those worries about a recession, 11 interest rate hikes, and still the stock market chugs along. I would remind you, Main Street is not the same as Wall Street. What Wall Street measures is the corporate profitability and the expectations for the companies making money for their shareholders. And so that's what that measures, and that right now is at an all-time high.
What is behind this rally, and will it continue?
So a couple of things. You've got a very strong American economy. In fact, the U.S. is the strongest economy in the world at the moment, right? In the developed world at the moment. So that's part of this here. Companies are still hiring. Even with all of this inflation worry and higher interest rates, companies are still making money. The corporate profits are strong, and there is a huge artificial intelligence investment happening right now. And so that's why the NASDAQ was up 35% over the past year. That is a remarkable return. The S&P 500, by the way, also up about 29%. This is again, the revenge of the buy and hold boring investor. $1,000 in the S&P 500, which is that basket of 500 big companies, would be almost worth double today.
Well, what's the main takeaway here, especially for the average person watching at home?
The main takeaway is you must be saving for retirement. You must be periodically buying stocks, whether they are high or low. They call it dollar cost averaging, which means set up a plan and continue to buy stocks. Warren Buffett and many others have said never bet against the U.S. economy and never bet against the U.S. stock market, because over time it rises. And we don't have guaranteed pensions anymore in this country. We don't have a guaranteed retirement. Social Security is in the hands of politicians in Washington, D.C. It's DIY for retirement. So I look at numbers like this as a reminder to tell people, get in there, folks, and continue to buy, to save, buy stocks, and the right mix for your age and risk, of course. that you need to be investing for your retirement.
Friday's a payday for many people.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Maybe should be
Really good
going
advice.
stocked away.
Get in on the game, get some things in line. Thanks, Christine.
Much more to come on this Friday edition of Morning News Now, including the growing fallout this morning surrounding Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker with that controversial commencement speech he made.
First, though, to the Middle East, where vital American aid is now inside Gaza. Our Richard Engel has the very latest from the ground after this.
An opioid is a type of drug used to reduce pain. An opioid emergency.
Come on in, show me some love. Push the like button.
And interrupts the body's natural drive to breathe. Opioid emergencies are a fast-moving epidemic affecting people nationwide, regardless of age, gender, or location. However, negative attitudes driven by stigma may hinder one from being prepared to help save a life. People may think,
We're back with the latest on the war in Gaza. Israeli Defense Forces are
EV enthusiast.
Gerald Levert, the legendary voice behind countless hits, lived a life that many could only dream of. With a successful career, a passion for philanthropy, and a magnetic personality that touched the lives of millions, he seemed destined for greatness. But on a fateful day, the world was stunned by the news of his untimely passing. Amidst the outpouring of grief and tributes, one question lingered: what led to the downfall of this beloved icon? Join us on a journey as we unravel the mystery behind Gerald Levert's final days, exploring the forgotten corners of his life and the eerie connection to this forgotten past.
Frozen bud.
Rock solid. Wow. Now you've got this big ice cube of weed. What do you do with that?
Literally.
A call out for action tonight. Two Toledoans need help getting reimbursed for damage to their cars after they say they bought some bad gas.
Melissa Andrews is here with the story. Mel, they have proof?
This is the proof, a mixture provided by a mechanic who drained water from one of their cars. This is the gas, this the water. Both customers say they got the mix at a station in South Toledo, and then their cars stopped working.
I've been over here 10 years. I've never looked at that gas.
Welcome back to the channel Lift On.
Lavish interior design, luxury beyond imagination.